We're here today to discuss the value of historical fiction. And the WEIR is the Comp 1 honors class at AC this semester. And we have spent our time this semester looking at two works of historical fiction. The first is Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, and it is the story of a Lithuanian family that was deported under Stalin's regime and taken to gulags in Siberia, ended up in captivity for 12 years. Primarily a book about females in all women's gulag. We followed that study by looking at this work of historical fiction, The Way Back, a narrative told in film. And this work adds to material learned via Sepetys' historical fiction, and it focuses on an all-male gulag prison camp under Stalin. We have four groups of students. The first students kind of wanted to find out what AC students knew at large about Stalin's reign of terror, and the next group is going to discuss the novel. Our third group is going to discuss the film, and the fourth group is going to talk about what they found is the real value this semester in looking at historical fiction as a way to learn history. Here they go.
And for our honors project in Dr. Dotson's English Comp 1 class, we conducted a survey to find out how much AC students know about the 1940s, the Allied and Axis powers during World War II, overlooked geographical knowledge, and basic world history. Our main goal was to collect data on how much the average AC student knows about Stalin's reign of terror.
Over 50% of students didn't even know where Lithuania was located at.
It was interesting to see people's reactions once I told them who the big three were and explained to them that we were on Stalin's side.
79% of students, they got Hitler and Stalin, but there was also Mussolini, Hirohito, and Mao. But me, if I would have taken this survey, I wouldn't have named those. I would have named Hitler and Stalin.
Most of the people had an idea of what genocide was, it was killing.
Oh, yeah.
Half of them knew that it was killing of a particular group, getting rid of a particular group.
Even though history teachers think that textbooks do a lot of teaching and they write all this thick book and they put so much work, it doesn't really help the student, because if a student is not engaged, which history books are not engaging, that they'll just read the page and not even know what they read. And so history teachers, I think, need to incorporate books and movies to actually tell history, because the
Historical fiction.
Non-historical fiction, is actually a good way to learn history, because I learned more from Ruta Sepetys, Between Shades of Grey, and the movie than I ever did in a textbook.
Those experiences that they went through, in the cattle cars and the collective farms and the gulags and all that stuff, she gives them a voice whenever they didn't have any courage to stand up for what they believed in and stand up for what they thought was right.
It's 6 weeks, more than 6 weeks that they're on this tiny little car and they have no food and no fresh air, and they're just, there's 46 of them stuffed in there.
There are other ways to learn about Stalin's reign of terror. You could watch the film The Way Back, because it gives a different perspective and it tells the journey of male prisoners who escaped the gulags versus focusing on the women and children, as Ruta Sepetys wrote about.
In both the book and the movie, they do strive for freedom, but how they reach that freedom is different. How they endure the hardships is different.
One thing that they didn't have is in the movie is children. In the book, they have children to worry about. They have, old people to worry about. And I think it's just kind of in our nature as women is we don't leave behind our children. We can't.
In the book, it really goes through a little bit more than the movie. Goes through their specific stories in the gulags. It goes through their trip to and from the camps, and from the camps to the gulags.
The book and the movie both show you how terrible things were that people actually had to escape their suffering. So I think historically they're both accurate, but I think the movie just kind of made you feel it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd go pick up a couple textbooks. I picked up 3 textbooks. And I figured I could find at least 2 or 3 sentences or something about Stalin's reign of terror. In all actuality, I actually couldn't.
There was a section in this novel that revolved around a woman being abused by a guard. A guard was chewing up food, and the guard spit the food on the ground. This woman was so hungry and so desperate for food, she was willing to eat the food, the pre-chewed food off the ground. This just shows how hungry and desperate the prisoners were in these camps. And that's just something that, yeah, exactly. The textbooks won't include that.
Like you said, I think textbooks are mainly statistical and they're boring to read.
When it comes to studying and reading, when the reader isn't engaged, the words become meaningless. When the words become meaningless, readers quit reading. When readers quit reading, they fail the class. When students fail the class, they drop out. When they drop out, you become homeless. When you become homeless, you starve to death. Brendan, don't starve to death. Ditch the textbook, grab this book.